Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Licensing Committee on the 19th of March 2025. Can I remind you, as usual, to use your microphones when speaking, as the meeting is being webcast. So the first item on the agenda, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
We have an apology for absence from Councillor Dunlop.
Thank you. Item 2, the minutes from the Licensing Committee on the 22nd of October 2024. They're on pages 5 to 11. Has anybody got any comments or corrections for those minutes? Okay, so if we could take it to a vote to approve those minutes. Councillor Townsend, we're just looking at the minutes of the last meeting last October. If you're happy with them, we were just about to take it to a vote to approve. Thank you. Okay, so if you're happy for me to sign those minutes as accurate, could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Ball. And a seconder? Councillor Deafley. Thank you. Can we have a show of hands, all those in favour? And any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you. Chairman's announcements, nothing of note today. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Item 5, environmental health regulated and licensed activities performance update on pages 12 to 36. Paul Thomas Jones, our service manager for environmental health, will introduce this report. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. So as you will probably remember from the last meeting, we were here going through the Food Standards Agency's action plan that we had agreed and the reasons for that action plan. Today I want to just update you on the progress, because the 31st of March is quite a significant date for the actions, and also just give you an outline of some of the changes we've had in terms of the numbers of premises that have been licensed and that in other areas of environmental health. So if we sort of take it in the order of the report, you'll see on page 15, there's pretty much static in terms of the numbers of licensed premises that environmental health are involved with. There's been a bit of a sharp rise in the number of skin piercers. I'm not really sure why that is. It could just be new businesses opening or change of staff. And we've had a bit of a drop in the number of food premises registered, but I think that's largely because we have cleared the backlog significantly, and therefore any businesses that have closed and failed to notify us have come to our attention, and we've been able to remove them from our system. So back in October, what was that, 5 months ago now, we went through the action plan. We're now at the point where of the 21 actions, 12 of them have been completed, 6 of them are on track to be completed, 2 are still delayed, and at the time of writing the report we were saying 1 was missed, but that's been achieved now. So the seasonal premises that we had that was skewing our figures has now reopened, and we've been able to inspect that. I think not in the report, but maybe of interest to members, when we talk about the amount of work done, it's hard to sort of when you're just looking at the numbers that are outstanding, it's hard to put that into context. But some of the figures, so when we first were put on the action plan with the FSA, we had 229 new businesses that hadn't been inspected. Of those 229, so from the 1st of April, of those 229, we now only have 19, at the time of writing this report, only 19 left to inspect, which is a significant improvement, I'm sure you agree. We are now up to date with the A's and B's and C's, and of our category D's, of the 200 that we had outstanding, we are down to just 16 of those, and we had said we'd finish those by the summer, this summer, so we're ahead of target on there, so that's really pleasing. The actions which are delayed are largely around sort of the back office side of things. So one which I feel we can probably take off of there now with the agreement of leadership team is around training on business objects, which was our new software. That's sort of being resolved now. And the other one is about looking at the long-term recruitment and retention of staff. So we are just still in that process going through what we know as the DMA, the decision management model. So we're still working our way through that process, and once that's sorted out, we'll be able to sort out more around the staffing. So yeah, if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Councillor Deathley?
Thank you. Thanks very much for that. Can I ask you a question on page 17, 4.4? I see that quite rightly, several temporary contractors have been appointed to accelerate the rate of inspections, which is a good idea. I'm just wondering, I'm assuming they're more expensive than a normal FTE, and therefore has that put pressure on the budget? Is it all fully costed? What's the situation with that, please?
Okay, so yes, in short, contractors are more expensive. We've got a number of vacancies within the team, so that is offsetting a large chunk of the cost, if not all of the cost. But there, not all the cost. There is I can't think off the top of my head how much it is, but we went through leadership team there and got the previous chief exec Richard Cassidy's approval to spend that money to recover because we were failing those statutory duties. So the idea is now, which is one of the delayed actions, is to look at how we can retain staff and recruit staff without having a detrimental effect to council's finances, but also the target set by us or for us. Okay.
Anybody else? It sounds like you've made great progress in the department, so well done to the whole team. Can I just ask a little bit about how much of your time is spent on investigations of incidents and reports from the public, and perhaps separately enforcement?
With regards to food premises?
Yes.
I would say it ebbs and flows. So we get, I'd say, a steady flow of outbreak notifications, whether they be individual infectious diseases or wedding parties. I wouldn't say it's huge chunks at a time. Generally, the businesses are broadly compliant, so they're generally compliant. The risk to the public is low. But yeah, I don't have exact figures, sorry.
Okay.
But I would say more of our time is spent proactively inspecting businesses rather than going in as a result of a complaint.
Okay, thank you. Fantastic. So any other comments before we take this forward? So the recommendations for the committee, they're on page 12 of your agenda pack. To A, consider and scrutinise the performance of environmental health with regards to regulated and licensed activities pertaining to food premises and pass any comments to the executive member for wellbeing for consideration. And B, to consider the performance of other activities, regulated and licensed activities by environmental health, and pass any comments to the executive member of wellbeing for consideration. Could I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Cox. And a seconder? Councillor Ball. Thank you. Can we have a show of hands to show you're in favour of those recommendations? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Fantastic. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you. So item 6, a review of licensing activities for quarters 1, 2 and 3 of 2024-25 financial year on pages 37 to 49. Who's going to... Actually, Oliver Rawlings, our service manager for licensing enforcement, will introduce the report to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'll start with an apology. At paragraph 2.2 of the report, there are some dates from a previous report. The Chair kindly picked them up while scrutinising the report. So it is for quarter 1, 2 and 3 of this financial year, as stated in the title, not with the wrong dates at 2.2. I don't propose to run through the entire report word for word because I know you've had time to read it and you've seen this style of report before, so I'll just highlight a few bits as we go through. So with regards to enforcement, from quarter 1 we had both part-time enforcement officer posts vacant and the senior licensing and enforcement officer post was vacant as well. So we were concentrating on fulfilling statutory responsibilities and reacting to complaints rather than doing some of the more proactive work that we do. So some of the routine visits work were left off due to the pressure of work. In Q3, all of those posts were filled. We're back up to a full team. Erica's joined the team. You may know from Democratic Services, but previously worked as licensing in Broxbourne with good taxi knowledge. So we're picking up all the routine stuff as we can. So we should be back on track when we report on Q4 and you have an annual report at the next licensing committee. So the routine stuff will be back up then. So as requested by licensing committee, we've included details about the complaints dealt with throughout this period. We separated these out into 4 headings, so sort of licensing act, taxi stuff, and a couple other bits. I won't go through them individually, but we've detailed all the stuff that we've done that's non-routine, so the complaints-focused stuff, which is what members were really interested in. Performance indicators are shown at 3.18 for licensing. Despite being short, we hit all our PIs throughout quarters 1 to 3. Don't expect anything different from Q4. Appendix A contains all of the data on numbers and types of applications we've had during the three quarters of this year so far. We're going to do in the annual report a year-on-year comparison so you can see the trends in more detail if there are any. Again, I don't propose to go through all of the figures in there, but there are a couple of bits I'd just like to highlight, which are from the table on page 49 right at the end. So the total number of licensed premises has consistently gone up. So I think it says 670 now. So that's gone up. So some have lapsed, some have been surrendered, but we're still increasing numbers. I haven't got the detail on the types of premises licenses, so what they're applying for, but we'll have that for the annual report. So you'll be able to see if it's a particular type of premises, whether it's off licenses, whether it's, so we'll see if there's a pattern there. And interestingly, the number of Hackney carriages has dropped to 180. We have a limit on the number of Hackney carriage licence that we issue, but that's set at 210. So we're currently 30 under our limit. Again, I'm not sure why that is. We've had some surrender, some people leave the trade as they've sort of decided to stop working. We're about to open a round of licence applications. So anyone, whether in the trade or a member of the public, can express an interest in having a new Hackney carriage licence. They tell us what sort of vehicle they're going to licence, and we score them based on the merit of the vehicles. And so if there's 30 plates and 30 people apply, everyone gets off the plate. If 40 people express an interest, then we score the vehicles and the top 30 would be offered the licences. So predominantly we're looking at wheelchair accessible vehicles score highly, fully electric, not hybrid, but fully electric would score highly. And the newer and greener the vehicle, the higher it scores. So essentially, if you license a vehicle that's over 5 years old and Euro 6, you get no points. So if there is 31 applications and you're 31 with 0 points, the people who've scored with the newer, greener, wheelchair accessible vehicles will get off of plates first. So it's to try and promote the fleet, the quality of the fleet. I think that summarises the interesting points of the report, Chair. So I'm happy to try and answer any questions there may be.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks very much for that. I was just picking up on something you've just said. It sounds to me like the vehicles that are going up in the hierarchy are far more expensive than other vehicles might be. Do you think that could be a reason why there's less people coming forward to apply?
Well, we promote it, but if everyone applied with a 10-year-old Euro 6 vehicle, we would fill our quota with 10-year-old Euro 6 vehicles. So the idea is, if it's competitive, we want a better standard of vehicle, but ultimately we've set our unmet demand survey says we need 210 Hackney carriages in the district. So we will license 210 Hackney carriages if we can.
Councillor Townsend.
Thank you. Obviously, these licences apply to the vehicle rather than the actual drivers.
Yes, that's correct.
What about any loading that relates to whether the vehicle is licensed that's relating to the driver's suitability?
So the drivers are licensed completely separately. So every driver has to be fit and proper. So we check everyone's suitability before they're a licensed driver. We check them again at renewal. There's the NR3 database where other councils can put on details of people who've been suspended and revoked. It's the first time, well, when that came in, that's the first time we were able to check those things. So two very separate things. And to license a vehicle, you don't actually have to be a driver. So you can just be a Hackney Carriage proprietor. And then it would have to be an East Harts driver, but they would have gone through the fitness and propriety test anyway. So
That makes me feel very happy. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I just wanted to say it was really interesting to read through the complaints. I think when you're working on licensing subcommittees and that kind of thing, you don't really have much of a feel for how many issues do come to light. So I'm sure there's a lot of work involved in putting those together, but I do think it's a really useful bit of reading. So thank you.
Any other thoughts? I was actually also going to say the complaints part was really interesting, and all the different agencies that you need to work with was enlightening. I'd also like to say about 3.7 complaints and the enforcement side of it, that the work carried out by the team is really appreciated by councillors. We've all got residents, or a lot, in town centres who get quite concerned about things, and it's reassuring to know that you're working hard on enforcement. So thank you. And I think the other side of that is it's clear that you're working towards good relationship with licence holders. So it's a bit like the environmental health. There's an element of prevention and management within that, not waiting for things to turn bad. So thank you.
Chair, if I could just come back on that point, I think we're rebuilding the team at the moment with some new people. I'm not saying it wasn't fit for purpose. We were doing some really good work, but people have come in and have been recruited who are about compliance. So for me and for the team, if we get to enforcement, we've failed. So we're there to seek compliance and aid people to do it. There's obviously people that aren't going to do it and choose not to, but we'll have made every effort to get them compliant. And then enforcement is obviously the last option. That's the stepped approach the council takes. And yeah, I don't like licensing enforcement as the title. I prefer licensing and compliance, but it is what it is.
Thank you. No, good message for the meeting. Thank you very much. Councillor Townsend.
Yes, thank you. One further thing that is loosely on the outside of that, obviously due to staffing restrictions, the progress intended as far as pavement licensing and clearing a backlog of the plethora of new mini cafes that were appearing everywhere on the street. Have you got any intended or perceived schedules for trying to catch up with that? I know it's a tricky question, but
In actual fact, I have a complete answer for that. So Erica knows. The team have just been tasked with delivering letters to everyone who has tables and chairs on the highway to try and assist them with knowing that they need to have a pavement licence, because often people don't. It sat with county for many years, but was never really pursued. It's come over to us. As you say, we've had difficulties getting to grips with it to start off with, because people don't expect, they've never been asked to licence. They may have had tables and chairs out for 10 years, never been asked, and all of a sudden they ask them. So we've been concentrating on the areas where accessibility is affected or it causes a risk to members of the public. I won't name premises. One premises we're dealing with shut. One premises we're dealing with applied for a licence, didn't get granted exactly what they want and are complying. So now the pavement's clear outside their premises, but they still have a pavement licence. We've obviously, through the executive member, we've set up the fees for non-compliance. So once we serve notice, if you don't remove your tables and chairs from the highway by a set date, we can turn up, we can take your furniture, we can store your furniture, and we can charge you for the pleasure of it. So if people decide they don't want their furniture back or they don't pay within 3 months, then the council is free to dispose of that furniture however they want. So the fees are now in place, the structure's now in place, the storage is now in place. So I'm expecting early April that the enforcement work with the non-compliant high-risk premises will start the first week in April.
an excellent answer. Thank you very much. I'm glad you had it. It's marvellous.
Good, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so the recommendation for this item is detailed on page 37 of the agenda pack. And the recommendation is that members review and comment on the licensing activity from the first, second and third quarters of the 2024-25 financial year. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Wiley. And a seconder? Councillor Hill. Sorry. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. And that's carried. So item 7 is urgent business. There's no urgent items, and so that concludes tonight's meeting at 7:20. Thank you very much, everybody.
Of course you can, yes.